The best way to predict the future is to create it. Splendid evening wishes to everyone present here. I take undying pleasure in welcoming you all to the Career Guidance Seminar. Now I request everyone to raise with Tamil Thai and College Pride.
सत्यं धृतसत्यनेत्रं सत्यात्मकं त्वां शरणं प्रपन्नः वाणी गुणानुकथने श्रवणो कथायां हस्तौ च कर्मसु मनस्तव पादयोर्नः स्मृत्यां शिरस्तव निवास जगत्प्रणामे दृष्टिस्ततां दर्शने तु भवत्तनूनाम् नमो भगवते तस्मै कृष्णायाद्भुतकर्मणे रूपनामविभेदेन जगत्क्रीडति यो यतः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.
Now I call upon Magan, Discipline Secretary of the BBS Student Forum, to officially welcome Vidyalaya. Wonderful and delightful evening to one and all present here. I take immense pleasure in welcoming all my Springboard series Startup to Scale Up. I also take absolute honor in welcoming our esteemed chief guest for the day, Mr. Benedict Nyanaya, founder of Active Turtle and MetaverseLearning.org. I would also like to welcome the dignitaries on the stage and the faculty members of the BB department, participants, and the students of the BB department. Thank you.
Thank you, Madan. Now I invite Satyabhama, SSR Secretary of the BBA Student Forum, to introduce the esteemed guest of the day.
The chief guest for today's event is Benedict Nyanaya, founder of Ask the Turtle and MetaverseLearning.org. He has worked as regional head for advertising agencies like JW2, Ericsson, etc. He is an entrepreneur and is involved in healthcare branding for Apollo Hospitals and Pharmacy. He has also ideated and executed a project for Hutch launch. The idea went on to win a Cannes Award. He is also involved with an IT HR company handling their strategy and has worked on a soldier recruitment project for Indian Army. He has also worked with ABAN Scientific Reading and is working with students and young professionals, assisting them with an intervention that will help develop cognitive skills required for reading. He has penned many articles like A Creative Guide Out to Make the Dead Come Alive Within a Given Time Frame and Can India Combine Science and Religion? We welcome you, sir, and thank you for your presence, sir.
Now I request RV sir to felicitate our chief guest of the day with a plant. Now I request Rajeshwari ma'am and Shankar sir to felicitate our chief guest with a memento. Now I call upon our esteemed chief guest of the day to address the gathering. Thank you.
Hello. Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
So it's great to be over here. I'm supposed to talk about from startup to scale up. Okay. Now, let me give you an introduction on what I'm going to speak about. The first thing is, there are no rules in this game. There are no rules in this game. We don't know what works, what does not work. But what I'm going to tell you is something which is completely different from what you have perhaps learned in the academics. Well, I don't want to tell you the same thing again and again. Okay, that's number one. So, I'm going to tell you some odd details, something which is completely different from the regular kind of rules. So, before we start, let's do a small activity. We go to our next activity. See, this activity is not an assessment, it is not an experiment, it is an activity. So, the only demand of this activity is you have to be honest. Okay? Shall we wait for them? Can you sit? So the only thing which I want you to do is you have to be honest. You have to choose one from here. Okay, you have to choose one from here. What will you choose? What will you choose of all this? Cake. How many of you will take cake? Cake. Okay. How many of you will take the Coke? Okay. See now, this is not the very. It's not a representation because you're still, getting used to it. Now, I've done this experiment in colleges. I've done this experiment in schools. I have done it on the roadside. I've done it in the central jail. Okay, for people who are prisoners. I have done it for all kind of people. But the results are the same. You know what the result is? You know what people want mostly? What do people want? This thing. People want cake. Okay, everybody goes for cake and there's nothing wrong with it. Can you tell me why people than to a book or a Coke? Why do people prefer a cake? Why? Yeah? Okay. Okay, now I'll tell you why they prefer a cake. The reason they prefer a cake is that the cake looks attractive. Number one, please remember this, the cake looks attractive. Number two, the cake is easy to consume. It's very easy, it's very soft. You don't even have to bite it. Okay? Number three, it gives you a lot of pleasure instantly. Okay? Three things. How many of you will take this instead of this and this? How many? How many? How many will go for the book? How many will go for the book? Nobody? Okay. Now this book is called Valmiki Ramayana. Okay? Which is better? The Coke, the cake, or the Ramayana? Which is better? Which is better for your life? Which is better? Which one? Cake, yeah? Okay. Now why is this not interesting? Huh? Nalla katti pesingla. Padikano, okay. Why is this difficult? Why people don't like this? Huh? Why? Yeah? Can't understand. Why people don't like this and they like this? Why? Okay, the reason people don't like a book is it's very difficult to read. It's very difficult to read. The normal thing is anything which is very difficult, we stay away. Anything which is challenging, which is very difficult, we stay away. Anything which is easy, we take. Correct? So now, I'm going to tell you something very, very important. Please listen to me carefully, because this is the core of the entire talk. There are two things. When you get out of college, you will get out of college into the world with a lot of skills. Okay? Why? Because you've just studied, you have spent your time listening to lectures, you've gone home and studied, you have written exams. So all this you have done, so you're getting into the world with a lot of skills. Okay? But the world needs your skill, but it also needs something else from your skill. What does the world need? The world needs people who have the ability to handle challenges. Okay? If you're not able to handle challenges, then your skill is of no use. They don't want you. So what do? They say, we look at a people's attitude. Okay? You have to have the right attitude. The right attitude is your ability to handle challenge. What is this ability to handle challenge? It means that when a challenge is given to you, when a challenge like this is given to you, what you do is, instead of running away from it, you say, I'm going to read you. I'm going to try reading you. That is a challenge. Any task which is very, very difficult, what you do is, you tell, I'm going to do it. Okay, that is handling the challenge. You don't run away from challenge. You don't run towards pleasure. You move towards a challenge. It's like this. Suppose you're living, assume that you're not living in this century, you're living, say, 10,000 years before this. Okay? 10,000 years before this, where would you be living? Where do you think you'll be living? Next slide. Where do you think you'll be living? You'll be living in a cave. Okay? 1 second. Huh? So you'll be living in a cave. Now, what happens is, imagine there are dragons and a whole lot of wild animals. What do? You have to hide from those animals. Correct? You have to hide, otherwise you will be eaten up. You'll be killed. So what do? You have to hide from the animals. The other thing is, you will also have to survive, right? You also have to eat, you also have to, survive. You'll also have to fight. You'll have to do that. So what do? You have to take up the challenge of going outside into the world, and you have to encounter these animals. That's what our forefathers did. They didn't run away and hide in the cave. They went and fought against these animals. Some of them won, some of them lost. Okay, now I'm going to tell you a story. The story is a real story about a girl I met maybe about 15 years back or 20 years back. And she told me a fascinating story. That girl is from a small town. She's from a town called Sivakasi. Her father left her and went away. Her mother was taking care of her, and her mother worked in a matchbox factory. Okay, she was a very poor family. So her name is Jyoti. Now what happened, Jyoti was studying in a college near Sivakasi. She was doing a BCom, and in her culture, as soon as she finishes college, they'll get her married. But Jyoti wanted to do a MCom. She didn't want to get married. So what she did, she applied for IAS. She knows she won't get it, but she went and applied for IAS. And she came to Chennai to write an exam. She wrote an exam, and then she called up her mother and said, Amma, I'm not going to come back. I didn't write my exam well, so I'm going to sit here, study, and write the next exam. So she stayed here. Now, when she came to Chennai, she had 1,500 rupees in her hand. Only 1,500 rupees in her hand. Remember, she was a very poor girl. And she has to stay somewhere. So she went and found a small lodge or something, not lodge, where the girls stay, right? And she went and paid some money and she stayed there. She didn't have food to eat. She didn't have money for food. Now she has to get a job to survive. So she used to buy 4 idlis per day, eat 2 in the morning, 2 in the night. In between, she'd go to STD booth, take the Dinathanjali newspaper, and go call people asking for an accountant job. And finally, she got a job in 1999 for 6,000 rupees in a company in Ambattur. Okay, for 6,000 rupees. Now, she worked in that company, and because of harassment, in 2000, she quit her job. At that point in time, she had 9,000 rupees in her hand as savings. And in between, Jyoti was also sending money to her mother. So, you know what she did after she quit this job? What do you think she would have done after she quit the job? Huh? New job. She was looking for a new job. Okay, number one. But you know what she did? She said, I came to Chennai to do MCom. If I don't have a job, I will go mad. So she went to university and enrolled in a MCom course. Imagine she doesn't have money. She only has 9,000 rupees. she would have spent about 5,000 rupees enrolling in a course. So when I asked her, why did you do that, Jyoti? She said, "Illara Python books are sir." You know what was Jyoti doing? She was moving towards challenge. She could have just used that money and paid the rent and she could have been happy. She didn't do that. She took up a bigger challenge in a difficult time. Now what happens after that? Next slide. After that, because of harassment, she quit. She came, next slide. Okay. Then she enrolled, sorry. Okay, don't look at this. Okay. Now what happened? She went and applied for a job. She got a job in this place called Jew Shop in Greaves Road for 11,000 rupees. And after 2 years, same thing happened. She was harassed in the office. She quit her job. At that point in time, she had 30,000 rupees. And you know what she did? She went and did the same thing. She joined, by the time she's finished MCOM, she went and joined LIPA to do her MBA. Now, what is most important is, from Jyoti is, so every time she had a crisis, she took up a challenge. Every time Jyoti had a crisis, she didn't get scared and save her money and all. She took up a challenge. She knows that having money in her hand is very important, but she said that is not the most important thing. The most important thing is for me to study. She took up a challenge. And then she quit the job. Then after that, after the fruit shop on Greaves Road, she got a job in a recruitment company. That's where I met her. She was earning quite a bit of money and she was sending home. She built a house in Sivakasi. All that she did. And the last I saw her was she was preparing for IAS. I don't know what happened after that. Now, this is the story which I'm telling you to illustrate that it's very important for us to move towards a challenge. Move towards a challenge. It's not about moving towards the cake. It's about moving towards taking up the most challenging job. So we'll go to the next part, second. Okay, next. Okay, the second thing is doing something, or there are a lot of people who tell you you'll have to do this, you'll have to do that. There are so many people who tell you what to do and what not to do. The most important, the second most, or maybe the most important thing is for you to realize that you should also decide on what you're not going to do. Okay? What you're not going to do is as important as what you're going to do. So, why is it important? I will tell you why. Now, you are all sitting over here, and I'm talking, and this is your target sum. You come here to listen to somebody who's talking to you, right? That's called the target. When you go to a classroom, when you listen to your professor or your teacher, what the teacher talks is the target sound, right? Now, listening to the target sound is important. At the same time, not listening to something which is distracting you is also equally important. You got it? The same thing should happen, both the things must happen simultaneously. First thing, you should listen to what is being spoken, and you should also reject what is distracting you. You will notice, there were a lot of distractions initially. Not much distraction now. Now, most important thing is it's very easy to get distracted because there'll be somebody singing over there, some noise coming from somewhere, your mind will start going there, or something will happen. So, what you're not going to do and what you're going to do is also equally important. Let me tell you why. Now, you decide that you're going to do something. Let's say you decide you're going to read this particular book. Okay? You're going to read Valmiki Ramayana, right? You decided. What do you think is things you should not be doing? What are the things you should not be doing? This is not an easy thing to do. It's a very difficult thing to do. Not many people will read it. What do you think you should not do? You should not do something You should not, as a person, when you have decided to read something or do something very difficult, you should not do something which is very easy. Okay? As youngsters, what the problem you youngsters have is there are so much of distractions around you. There's so much. It's very difficult. My life as a kid was much easier than what it is for you today. Today, it's so easy to be distracted because you can just take a phone, get onto Instagram or Reels or whatever, and you can just get lost, watching some silly kind of videos and getting a lot of pleasure out of it. Now, what is that? If you consume that kind of a material, there's no way you'll be able to read this. Because what are you doing? You're training yourself to eat the cake and not to read the book. You're training yourself to do very, very low challenge tasks, and when you're given a big task, you'll not be able to do it because you're so used to it, right? You're so used to giving pleasure to yourself that you will not be able to take up challenges, and that is something which is very, very dangerous. Go to the next one. Be articulate in your speech. So, how you speak, what you speak is going to become very important. Because as businessmen, as entrepreneurs, the first thing you have to understand is you're going to convince somebody about an idea, or you want to sell something to somebody else so that they buy into it. Now, if you're not able to talk, if you're not able to use the language properly, then you have a disadvantage. But if you know how to speak, you become a very, very powerful Superman. Okay? If you're able to speak properly, if you're able to convince somebody, please understand that you're equal to being a Superman. You know the story of Kartikeya, that is Muruga, and Vinayaka? You know the story of how Narada came from the hill, from the mountain, with with a mango in his hand. You know the story of that? Yeah? And then he goes and gives a challenge. He says, whoever goes around the world 3 times, comes first, will get this mango. He gives the challenge. Now please understand, he's giving a challenge to one guy who's got a 6-pack, which is Kartikeya. Okay? And he's got a Peacock, which is a very fast vehicle. It's like having a Ferrari. And the same challenge is given to Vinayaka, who's got a rat as a vehicle and who is fat. The same challenge is given to 2 people. So it is something like match fixing. It's giving an activity so that one person wins, right? That's how it is. Now, what happened actually, as soon as the challenge was given, Kartikeya starts running. As soon as the challenge was given, Kartikeya starts running. Now, what does it signify? If you're ready for a job, you're able to do it immediately. That's what happened. But what was Vinayaka doing? What do you think Vinayaka was doing? What do you think he was doing? Huh? Yeah, but see, when he was running, what do you think? He would have been sad, right? He would have been sad. He would have been thinking. He would have been thinking what to do. He would have cried, maybe, oh, I can't run. I can't compete against my brother. All these thoughts would have gone into his head. Okay? He would have there would have a lot of sadness gone into his head. But then, something came to his rescue. What came to his rescue? The ability to handle language. Okay? The ability to handle language. The world, he changed it to my world. Just a small difference. Instead of the, he put my. And the entire competition was changed to his favor. Right? That is the ability of language. That is the ability of speaking. So please learn, listen to people who can speak well and learn from them and practice it. Because that is something which you need in your life as you step into your work world. Next slide. So now let's look at metaverse. What is metaverse? You know what? I assume that you know what metaverse is, right? Because all youngsters, you should know what metaverse is. Now, metaverse is something which is going to be very important in the coming years. So what did Elon Musk tell about metaverse? Elon Musk says metaverse sucks. That's the word he used. Elon Musk said metaverse sucks. And you know why it sucks? Because metaverse is going to provide a lot of entertainment and a lot of pleasure to people. It is going to be like how the Instagram is, the Facebook is, or whatever, or TikTok is. This is going to be much, much better than any of these things you're going to use. Because you are going to experience augmented reality and virtual reality, and the life that you're going to see in the next maybe 5 or 6 years in metaverse is going to be completely different. It's going to be immersive, it's going to be different. But Elon Musk says it sucks. Okay? Now, I also go by it because I think there's a lot of, hype around metaverse. But one thing I know that anything which is easy, anything which is giving pleasure, like the cake, a lot of people are going to go behind it. Right? You see, every phone has got these small videos. You watch videos. You watch videos on small videos on WhatsApp or Instagram or whatever, because it gives pleasure. Metaverse is also going to be like that. A lot of people are going to go into metaverse. A lot of people are going to experience the metaverse. So, what are you going to do as entrepreneurs? What do you think you have to do? What do you think you will have to do? I'm asking a question. Anybody can answer. What do you think you should do? Not if you're talking. What do you do in metaverse? I want one answer, please. Please. What do you think you should do, like youngsters? What? Okay, I'll tell you what you should do. One is, you should not become a consumer. You should become a creator. Okay, don't become a consumer, because consumption, lot of people are going to consume metaverse. Lot of people are going to consume, but you don't become a consumer, right? You become a creator in metaverse. If you're going to do something, create something in metaverse. The opportunities in metaverse are immense in the next maybe 5 or 10 years. But if you are a consumer, you have lost the game. But if you are a creator, you're going to make a lot of difference in the world, and you're also going to make a lot of money. Okay? So, what do you think? So I was telling you about listening, no? There is something you need to understand about as far as the listening is concerned. There are 3 things you need to listen to. One is you listen to your inner voice. Okay? See, in Indian culture, we have this thing called the puja room. You don't see that nowadays in most houses, right? Most of the apartments don't have puja room because they're not built like Western, houses, architecture. But traditional Indian homes had something called a puja room, and people went and sat inside the room, did their pujas, and then spent about an hour, half an hour, 15 minutes, whatever. They did this, they had this concept. Now, what were they doing actually the puja? They were actually listening to their inner self, right? They were meditating, they were listening to their inner self, which is very important, and that is the power of the Eastern culture. That's the power of the Indian culture. Listening to yourself. Now, that is as much as it's very important, the second thing is also very important, which is listening to what others tell you. Not many talk about it. Listening to what others tell you. What it means is, whoever you want to listen to, or whoever is talking to you, you have to give them 100% attention, right? 100% attention. You should not ignore it. You should not ignore it. Because I'll tell you why you should not ignore it. If you listen to people and if you don't give attention to them, you will get used to not giving attention to anybody. Anybody. Which means you become a bad listener. If you become a bad listener, then you're not a human being. You're not listening to anything, right? You have to listen. You have to listen 100%. You have to give your entire being and listen to what other people tell you. So, developing the listening skill is very important. The third most important thing is listening to things which do not have life. Okay? Listening to things that do not have life. I'll tell you what you do. When you have an opportunity, go home, take your footwear away, take your footwear, which means you're barefoot, and you sit on the floor. Just sit on the floor and take a box of crayons. The crayons you get for about 15 rupees, 20. Take a box of crayons, remove all the crayons and put it on the floor. Okay? Put it on the floor and then close your eyes as you're sitting in front of the crayons. Close your eyes and then open your eyes and look at the crayons. I'm not joking. I've tried it many times. One crayon will call you. One crayon will tell you, take me. You must try it. Okay? Or if you have a bookshelf at home, you stand near the bookshelf and look at the bookshelf. One book will call you. It's very, very strange. One book will call you and tell you, please take me and read me. You got it? You would have seen videos of how people go to the dog adoption centers. You know, there'll be one dog which will want to come with you. Have you seen those videos? Okay? So there is a sense of attraction that we have or things have towards us. Right? You have to give importance to that aspect also. That is very, very important to improve this listening skill. If you listen to what is around you, you will enjoy your life and you will take the right decisions. Let's take Metaverse for example. Now, whether to do work with Metaverse or not, what do you do in Metaverse? Metaverse has got a lot of opportunities. All you have to do is take pieces of paper, write it down, and then stick it on a wall and just keep looking at it every day. One day, one of them will attract you. And that is something which you can pursue, that you can go after. Next. So the last thing I want to tell you is, I was telling you about giving 100% attention, right? So the most important thing is rejecting the distractors, I said. Okay? Rejecting the distractors. So whenever you do something, there are two ways you can do it. Like if you want to swim, there are two ways you can swim. One is you can swim in the shallow water, where you can keep your leg on the ground. You will not drown. Or you can go into the deep side of the water. How many of you can swim over here? Super. Okay. For people who swim, they know it's easier to swim in the deep than in the shallow, right? Why? Why is it easy to swim in the deep than in the shallow? Because the buoyancy of the water lifts you up. Buoyancy of the water lifts you up. So people who can swim will never go into the shallow part of the water. They'll only be in the deep part of the water. And people who have the skills to swim, they will only go from deep to deeper part of the ocean. Like for example, when I learned how to swim, when I went to the shallow part of the water, I was very happy because it was very safe. Then the third day, my coach took me to the deep part and he said, look at the water. He just said, look at the water. As I was coming here to look at the water, he pushed me inside. Right? That's how you learn swimming. And then you start, beating your hands and all that, and you start enjoying it. And then you start enjoying it and enjoying it. Then one day the sea called me. Marina Beach, no? I went and stood at the Marina Beach. The sea is calling me, come and swim. Okay? So I took a catamaran. I hired a catamaran. I took that guy, went in the middle of the ocean, and I swam in the middle of the ocean. It was very, very, it was dangerous. The sense, it was very scary. But it was much, much easier to swim in the deep rather than swim in the shallow. So whatever you do, make sure that you go to the deep side of that problem. Don't go and, only the shallow part, don't do that. Go into the deep, go into the depth and understand the problem. Okay, anyway, I think this. So the last thing I want to leave behind is, something which is very, very important, especially for the boys. The most important thing is for you to respect women. Most important thing is for you to respect women. Because this is something which people don't talk about. They think, respecting women is because they are another human being. No, it's not for that. Respecting women is something very, very strategic and very, very important for any human being, especially people who are getting into serious business. Okay? I'll tell you why it is very important. I was very surprised when I realized 70% of the decisions are taken by women. 5 decisions are taken by women. Right? Women actually control most part of our work life. Most of the work is done by women. But then, what we tend to do is, we take it for granted. We don't understand it. We take it for granted. Now, if you take women for granted, all your decisions are likely to become wrong. Because women are a large decision-making class. Large decision-making class. So when you plan a product or you plan a service, and if you do not respect women, the chances are that you will not think of women when you are planning it. Which means your decision making will be only for everything will be concerned with men, which is a big, big fault, and it's a trap you should avoid. So to summarize the whole thing, the first thing you need to understand is, you need to have this attitude which you need to develop, where you move towards a challenge and not run away from it. To move towards a challenge, you have to train yourself to move away from low challenging, pleasure giving tasks. Right? If you want to move towards a challenge, you should make sure that you as a human being or as an individual, you should avoid getting pleasure from simple tasks. To make it very easy for you to understand, suppose you want to take up a large project, like for example, you want to take up reading a book. You have to make sure you condition your mind towards handling challenges and not moving towards pleasure. Don't move towards pleasure. Pleasure, let it come to you, but you don't move towards pleasure. Because the more you move towards pleasure, the more ordinary and simple you become. You cannot take up any challenges. The second most important thing I want to leave behind is, make sure you improve or develop the skills of listening, which means whatever you do, listen 100%. Whoever talks to you or whatever you are concerned with, give 100% of your listening skills to that person or to that activity. The third thing which I want to tell you is that third thing I want to tell you is make sure that you develop your communication skills and be articulate in how you are talking. Make sure that you speak well because that's superpower. If you are able to speak well, you have a superpower. If you're not able to speak well, that's a weakness for you as an entrepreneur. That's what I want to tell you. And the most important thing is respect women.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insights on Metaverse. Now I call upon Gayatri, Joint Treasurer, to deliver the vote of thanks.
I take extreme honor in thanking our chief guest of the day, Mr. Benedict Janaya, who spared time from his busiest schedule for this great occasion. We are immensely thankful for your insights on the metaverse and the challenges, sir. I'm sure your words have definitely struck a chord with everyone here. I also thank all the faculty members of the department for their constant support. I thank the participants and the audience for their active participation and enthusiasm throughout the event. I wholeheartedly thank every person that contributed to the success of this wonderful event. Thank you.